This weekend, Winnipeg's multi-faceted vocal chamber choir Camerata Nova begin their 2017-18 season with Snow Angel, a diverse program of Canadian content with musical guests and even a little bit of audience sing-along. I'm joined now by Sandi Mielitz, Camerata Nova board member, and Andrew Balfour, artistic director and composer. Good afternoon to you both.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Well, such a pleasure having you both here. I want to begin by asking about the title program on this work, Snow Angel by the Canadian composer Sarah Quartol. It's a work that's resonated with choirs around the world, from performances at the 10th World Symposium on choral music to national broadcast. It's been performed everywhere from Australia to Finland, Germany to Thailand. How did this work find its way to Camerata Nova in Winnipeg?
Well, it's very cool. First of all, it's Canadian.
It is.
So, it should be performed at home. And we have Vic Pankratz to thank for that. Vic is conducting this concert. He also curated it. And, he thought it up and thought, wow, what a perfect centerpiece for this concert. And then around that, he decided to make, the whole concert focused on youth. So we've got the two Sistema choirs coming in with elementary school kids who have good choral training, plus Juliana Morose. She's only 15 and she's absolutely fabulous cello player. So, it's really going to be, I think, a very cool and different concert.
I think it definitely is. And like you said, that idea of a collaborative aspect. It is the holiday season, which has a collaborative notion to it. Andrew, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the rest of the show. I mean, Snow Angel is obviously the main piece, but there's so much more to this program.
Yeah, we try to do this for our Christmas concert, is to have a lot more variety, and certainly we do for this one, but even for us. You mentioned collaborations. We're, of course, collaborating with the STEM music program, which is very, very important for us as well. We have worked with them before, and it's actually so much fun. Let's face it, children at Christmas time, especially if they're making music, it's really special, and it gives them an opportunity to perform for our audiences, and our audiences get an opportunity to see the kids. But we also have, again, as you know, we are also an early music ensemble too, so we're going to be doing 3 different arrangements of O Magnum Mysterium, O Great Mystery, O Great Wonderful Mystery. It's a beautiful Christmas motet. I've written an arrangement using that text. Mel Braun has written an arrangement from the perspective of the animals in the stable that just would have seen this incredible event. And then we're going to go back to the early music, Thomas Lewis's Victoria's setting of O Magnum Mysterium. So we would like to do this around Christmas, as we like to have actually different perspectives of the same text, which is kind of cool. But we have we're also doing a kind of tongue-in-cheek arrangement that I've made of Santa Claus songs in Inuktitut. Wow. I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus, and Here Comes Santa Claus in Inuktitut. So we're going to have the choir singing little snippets of the music, and we'll have a narrator speaking in Inuktitut to these wonderful, very familiar carols, but I bet you not many people have heard them, spoken in Inuktitut.
Well, I was going to say, I most certainly haven't. What was that relationship like, setting that text to those tunes for you as a composer?
It was hard because I don't speak Inuktitut, so we had to have a translator. But I have to say that the Inuit have a wonderful sense of humor that I find very unique. I basically got this idea when I heard somebody sing one of these songs on the radio in Inuktitut, and I thought it was hilarious to hear a song that's so well known, but in a different language, especially like Inuktitut. It was very, very. So I wanted to try to do that. So we're going to give people a little bit of flavor this weekend.
That's the part that I love about Camerata Nova. I mean, it says it right in the program. There's this beautiful choral music with a little bit of a quirky twist. And that's the part that I find so exciting and so engaging for audience members. I also know there's a little bit of an audience sing-along going on, perhaps a little bit, to get people involved in the program.
Always. And, we have a very sophisticated audience. There's a lot of people in that thing. We've had them in the past singing in German and Latin in 4 parts and the whole bit. This time, because we've really focused this whole program on kids, and we're really encouraging a lot of families to come. Tickets are super cheap. It's $10 for adults. Kids under 12 are free. Students are $5. So we've made the sing-alongs more straightforward than normal, things like Angels We Have Heard on High, and we'll just, we've got an organist, and we'll blast the roof off and have good Christmas fun.
No kidding. putting people in the holiday spirit. I was just doing a little bit of reading, of course, on Camerata Nova. You guys are in your 21st season. It was 21 years ago, around this time, that Camerata Nova began, right?
Yes.
Singing some holiday music. So what a time to come together again, and just that involvement that Camerata Nova has always had, this holiday time of year, just spreading the cheer, to use a little bit of the cliche. I also want to ask you about the rest of this 2017-18 program. What else can Winnipeg audiences expect from Camerata Nova?
Well, we usually have a mandate every year to do 3 major concerts. Usually one is like Christmas concert, and then one is an early music concert, and then we have a contemporary concert. So this year our early music flavor is A Wonderful World of Gabrielli. The Tale of Two Cities is a curated and conducted by our early music specialist, John Weens. We're bringing in 10 top instrumentalists, and I can honestly tell you that Andrea Gabrielli, and his nephew Giovanni Gabrielli, were leaders of the Renaissance. They also created single-handedly stereophonic music, antiphonal music.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're going to be having 3 different choirs all over the church, singing different places. We're going to have wonderful early music, wind and violin and string players. It really is a very, very exciting music, particularly again because you have this antiphonal side to all this music. Because especially if you consider some of those churches in Venice and St. Mark's, where you had choirs in every gallery, and it must have been an incredible sound. So I personally love this repertoire, and that's part of our mandate. Camerata has always been interested into early music. So we really love this style. And
I think what's really neat about that early Renaissance antiphonal music is that part of it you have to experience.
Yes.
Like, you can't just listen to it on a recording. And yeah, I know there are recordings that have, maybe your right ear buzzes at some point and then your left ear buzzes. But to be there in the room and to hear the choirs as the sound gets thrown through these beautiful, magnificent cathedrals.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those things that you just have to experience. So to me, the Gabriellis and that family, I mean, they didn't just change music, but they kind of changed Venice.
Yes,
too,
they did.
Right?
Yes.
They just had such an impact on that cosmopolitan city back in the day. Yeah.
I just want to follow up on that. The concert's called A Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah.
And it's because Venice before the Gabriellis and Venice after were 2 different cities. This is what put Venice on the mark culturally and really economically in Europe. And the Gabriellis did it. And John, when he chose that title, was thinking of kind of Winnipeg going through a renaissance from, some pretty tough times in the 90s. And now we are kind of blossoming and blooming. And that's what took him to A Tale of Two Cities. So it's cool.
We've really come into our own. And that segues wonderfully to the next show, to wrap up the Red River Song. Tell me about that.
Well, this is something that Mel and I have been talking about for some time. I know Mel has been thinking about doing something like this, and I felt what better time to celebrate this area, the culture of the Red River Valley, the history with the Métis, and celebrating Métis musicianship. We have a world-class composer, Elliot Britton, who is Métis, who teaches at the University of Toronto, and who is actually a wonderful, wonderful composer. I first heard his music last year at the New Music Festival. And he's graciously agreed to write us a wonderful work for this concert. And Mel's kind of creating a concert that is basically trying to give us the landscape of that time. What the major sound you would have heard, back in the early days would have been the squeaking of the wheels on the ox carts, because it wasn't greased, so you would hear them for miles and miles. You hear the squeaking just would travel, because that would be the ox carts, the Red River carts. So that's kind of what we're sort of like trying to the imagery that we're trying to get, because obviously we're looking out right now outside your wonderful studios, and looking outside it would have been very different 200 years from here, this whole area. So just to kind of give you that expansiveness that would have happened when this was a very, very young settlement. So it's quite powerful.
One of our objectives with this concert is to create more choral versions of Métis music.
Right.
So we're doing a ton of arrangements of Métis songs, old poetry by people like Pierre Faucon, who's a famous Métis guy from the 1870s. And then we're going to put them up on our website, and they will be available for schools to download or whoever. And because right now it's hard to find a lot of fun, interesting Métis stuff.
And to me, that comes down to accessibility, right? Finding that music and making sure that people are hearing it. What type of choral tradition exists there in terms of, like, to me, I don't immediately think of that choral repertoire the same way we think of it in Western classical canon. So, I mean, looking at how you took Inuktitut and Santa Claus, how does this pair in terms of that the Métis song and the choral tradition?
Well, that's a very good observation. I think we're trying to create it, because definitely if you think of Métis music, you're probably thinking of fiddling, which we do. We have Claudine Saint-Arnaud, who is a wonderful fiddler and violinist, but also there's song, but you wouldn't necessarily think of choral things. So we actually have to create, Mel's very, very good at this too, is creating a new language actually in terms of, like, we definitely wanted to utilize the spirit of Métis music, which is dance and entertainment and celebrating the joy of life, sort of like what, they were hard workers, but also hard, at the end of the day, taking out the fiddle and dancing and jigging. And you definitely have to have a good time. And that's what this concert is going to be like. And Mel's going to be very good at that and just sort of creating this sort of sense of history, but also new ways to approach the Métis music too.
Mel has actually written another piece for this called Red River Cart.
Nice.
And I think it'll be lots of fun. He started by thinking about the squeaking wheels and then went from there in terms of putting it together.
I want to kind of round out by just saying, I'm going to turn to you on this one, Sandi, that I know that there's some congratulations in order for Andrew, who's joined us here in the studio. Some pretty exciting times going on.
Yeah, Andrew's had a wild ride since last June. So we did a concert last February here called Taken, and it was an Indigenous-based concert. We had 3 different Aboriginal composers from across Canada, including Andrew, and we commissioned them to write works on the theme of Taken. And we ended up with a really powerful concert, very touching concert. And we were invited to perform it by the National Arts Centre in June as part of their Canada 150 Festival. And out of that, Andrew's name and our name really got on the radar screen in the East. All of a sudden, he gets a call in July, and he is invited to write an opera, an Indigenous opera. Incredibly exciting. Andrew, I'm going to just let you take it from there and give us a few details about that, and then I want to come back with another thought.
You never know as a writer sometimes what's going to come to you, and certainly because of the original composer had went unable to do the opera for medical reasons, and I've always wanted to do an Indigenous opera. I wanted to do, I think it's a powerful medium. You don't always think of Indigenous issues in opera, but I think actually the Indigenous, culture has embraced drama and music and dance and what have you, all the facets of opera for many, many millennium. So it's not really that actually outside the box.
It's not a stretch.
Not a stretch at all. The difficulty was writing the libretto because I really didn't have that experience before. I don't know if I'd want to do it again. I love writing music, but writing libretto was very difficult, I found. But so we've workshopped it in Haliburton, Ontario, which is around central Ontario, for the month of August. And then we had rehearsals last month, and I leave tomorrow to go out east, and I'm going to start rehearsing next week. So it's full on.
Yeah.
Let me just say that Andrew was commissioned by 2 opera companies. First of all, the experimental arm of the l'Opéra de Montréal, and the other is the Highland Opera Workshop, which is a very high-quality summer workshop for, let's say, young professional opera singers. So the 2 groups got together and put this whole commission together. And so Andrew is performing it, and he is part of the performance.
Wow.
In Montreal on December 16, 17 at Université de Québec à Montréal, and then also in Haliburton, north of Toronto, at the Big Arts Centre there the week after. So it's pretty cool.
It's so fascinating to me because we were just talking about how the Gabriellis put Venice on the map, and now we're talking about how Winnipeg is kind of getting its due. Like we were saying, in terms of the programming this year, it all just seems to come together so wonderfully. It really does. Andrew and Sandi, I want to thank you so much for coming by the Classic 107 studio this afternoon.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you. Camerata Nova begins their 2017-18 season this weekend with Snow Angel, a diverse program of music that will most certainly put you in the holiday spirit with a thoughtful, engaging, and fun program. 2 chances to see the show: tomorrow, November 25th at 7:30 p.m. and Sunday at 3, both performances taking place at Crescent Fort Rouge United Church.